If you're going to be pulling your own strings in your own life, that's operating from strength. Really, it means operating from effectiveness in your life. It's almost like you have to develop a code of non-victim ethics for yourself that says, I am a valuable, important, significant, divine creation. I am here for a very short time. While I'm here in form, in the physical body that I'm in, I am entitled to fulfill the purpose or the destiny that I have been assigned. While I'm here, I believe in that. I'm here for a purpose, and I'm going to get my life on that purpose. Anyone or anything that gets in the way of that, as long as I can behave towards them in a moral and just and honest way, I can say to myself in my moral code of ethics, you do not have a right to interfere. No one has a right to interfere with anyone else's right to live their life the way they want to. No one. My right to swing my fist and flail my arms about stops with your right to not have your nose be punched. All right, so as long as you're not hurting anybody else in the process of operating from strength, as long as you're not interfering with somebody else's right to do the same, then whatever it is that you're doing is perfectly all right. Now, there are going to be a lot of people who aren't going to like that. I've outlined a few of those people already. The family, particularly, are going to be a lot of people in there who are going to tell you that you shouldn't do it this way because it's inconvenient for them or that it isn't going to get them to where they want to be. They're not going to have anybody to manipulate or control. If you go off and just do whatever it is you want to, they might have to do a lot more than they've been used to doing. They might have to clean up after themselves. They might have to make some effort to take responsibility for their own life. And you've been doing that all along. So they will be spending a lot of energy attempting to keep you from really asserting yourself and doing what is significant and important for you in your own mind. But you have to be effective. You have to be what I think of as quietly effective. The way that you are quietly effective is you do not teach people not to victimize you with words. Let me emphasize that words are not the tools of the quietly effective person operating from strength. It is behavior that counts. You teach people with your behavior how you want to be treated. And here we are trying to pull our own strings and be our own person, talking endlessly and ceaselessly, having these arguments and discussions, and it still goes on and on. You still find yourself the victim. You still find yourself picking up after others or not being respected or whatever it may be. There's an old saying, it's one of the secrets of the universe. I hear and I forget, I see and I remember, I do and I understand. Not one moment before doing is what teaches people how to understand you. So it is in the act of doing when someone behaves towards you in a way that is to victimize you. Like your children, for example, leaving their clothes around and you endlessly talk to them about not doing this any longer. You don't want them to leave their clothes around. You think, don't you understand that I have to pick up your clothes and my clothes? That's not fair. You go through this tirade day in and day out, and it still continues. But when you take those clothes and put them in the trash, or when you leave those clothes sitting there and don't wash them for them so that the only clothes that get washed are those that are in the appropriate place, or when you teach them with whatever it is that is effective, quietly effective behavior with no words, you let them know specifically, I am not going to be your victim. This is true of virtually everything. If somebody is yelling and screaming at you, whether it's your husband, your wife, one of your children, or a clerk, and if you stand there and scream back, it's just words against words and it doesn't mean anything. But if you leave quietly, leave the room, and go into another room, you're sending a signal. I am too dignified and too valuable and too important a person. I think too much of myself to stand here or sit here and take that kind of abuse, so I will be leaving. And you don't have to say those words, you just do it. In every single expression where you are victimized through conversation or through words, there is a way to teach people with your behavior that you are a person who operates from strength rather than weakness. You must learn to never place anyone in your life of importance above yourself. No one. The Queen of England, the President of the United States, the generals in the armed forces, the doctors who serve you, the very rich people who live in the fancy homes in the suburbs, the entertainers, the sports stars, all of these, whoever they are, the movie stars, whoever these people are, they are no different than you. That's one of the great lessons I learned when I toured the country many years ago for this book, Confirm Your Erroneous Zones. I appeared on The Tonight Show many times, and then Dinah Shore's show and John Davidson's show. All of these shows were very popular at that time. I met so many of the top stars in music, entertainment, sports, and the recording industry. It was always interesting to me that none of these people who were your heroes were any better than I was. I remember what President Carter said when he was running for office. They asked him if he thought he was qualified to run for president. He said, "Well, I really never thought I was until I met all the other people who were running. Then I felt I was just as qualified as they were." That's always the effect it has on me when I meet someone in a high position of authority. I find out that they have the same difficulties, the same foibles, the same problems, the same pimples, and the little blemishes. They smell bad too when they wake up in the morning. They are not any better or different than the rest of us. What you want to do is teach yourself in your own mind, where being a non-victim always takes place, that nobody out there deserves any more accolades, attention, or respect than you do. You are human. You are connected to all the rest of us through that invisible intelligence that runs through all form in the universe. You are just as valuable. In God's eyes, no one is any better than anyone else. Know that. And know that it's not only true in God's eyes, but also in your eyes. Keep that in your mind. Then, as you operate from strength, you can try on a few of these strategies. You stop asking permission in your life. You stop seeking permission when you're speaking. Instead of saying, "Would you mind if I ask you a question?" say, "I'd like to know if," and whatever the question may be. Instead of saying, "Would you mind terribly if I return this for a refund?" say, "I'm bringing this back because I'm dissatisfied." You can do that respectfully. You can do that kindly and gently. Instead of when you're going out and saying, "Is it all right, dear, if I go out for an hour?" You say, "I'm going out, dear. Is there anything that you'd like me to do for you while I'm out?" It's a declaration versus a question of getting permission. The idea that somebody else has to give you permission in order to live your life or do the things that you're entitled to do is not at all a case for being disrespectful to other people. It's a case for just letting the world know, and the people in it that are important to you, that you have a right to live your life without being victimized. This is as simple as that. Don't take it any further than that. When you're talking to people, if you want to operate from strength, look right into their eyes when you talk to them. When you look down and when you look from side to side, you send out a signal. The signal is, "I'm not as important as you are." When you hem and haw and say maybe and all of that, you are sending out a signal. The signal is, "Victimize me. Do whatever it is that you want to do to me, and I'm here just for that purpose." Watch your body and your posture and your body language when you're speaking. Make a direct effort to look directly into someone's eyes. I do that all the time when I'm speaking to people. I speak to large audiences, and when I'm through, people will come up to me. I try to always make direct eye contact with that person. It's the window to the soul. If you don't do that, you're sending out a signal. If someone asks you for a loan, or someone asks you to do something you don't want to do, like serve on a committee perhaps that you don't want to serve on, instead of beating around the bush and playing the victim game and knowing that eventually by saying maybe and I'm not sure and call me in a week and all of that, you know that eventually they're going to get you. That's an easy way to handle that. 2 simple letters, N and O, right off the top. No, I'm not interested in that. Thank you for considering me. And then when they come back with all of the reasons why you should be doing what they don't, watch what they think you should do and that you don't want to do. Your response is, "I guess you just didn't hear what I said. Perhaps you didn't hear me when I said that I didn't want to do that." And you never veer from that stance. And it becomes like a wonderful game that you're playing. You know what their game plan is. Their game plan is to get you to do something that you don't want to do, or to loan you some money when you don't want to loan it. Then you know that they're not good for it, or whatever it may be. You know what their game plan is and what their objective is, and all you have to do is just stay on course. Just stay on course, and lo and behold, after a while they stop. All of that kind of stuff stops because you were emphatic enough at the beginning to just simply say no. If you're a non-smoker and other people are smoking around you or anything like that, and you feel that they're violating your right to have your lungs free from their noxious smoke, then you'll be afraid to politely ask someone to stop. Test yourself. Give yourself an opportunity to test. You're operating from strength behavior. Don't sit there and inhale smoke for an entire evening. In fact, that's one of the reasons why it's become less fashionable for people to smoke and why fewer and fewer people are doing it. Which is wonderful because it used to be that the smokers were in the majority and the non-smokers were the victims. It doesn't have to be that way any longer, and now you're seeing it reversing. People are beginning to pull their own strings. Try calling some people by their first name instead of yes sharing and doctor this and professor that and sir this and all that, just to see what happens. You find that when you keep yourself level with other people, if they're calling you by your first name, they're not any better than you because they have a title. And that isn't necessarily a way that you show people respect. You don't show people respect by what you call them. You show people respect by how you interact with them.